Hi, I'm Megan Story, and today I'll be talking about the quiz module in Moodle. So first, we'll take a look at why you might want to create a quiz in Moodle. We'll talk about some of the pros and cons, and then we'll go right to Moodle and see what a student sees, as well as how to create a quiz from the instructor point of view. So first, let's talk about some of the reasons you might create a quiz in Moodle. First, you could always use a quiz for your traditional assessment. If you'd like to give a timed test of almost any format, such as multiple choice, fill in the blank, matching, or an essay, Moodle can do that. You can set timing options, you can set the question type, as well as have Moodle grade multiple choice and similar types of questions. Another reason you might use a quiz module is to create an assignment where you'd like everyone to reach a certain benchmark. For instance, if I'd like everyone to get 90% of vocab terms, I could set that and have students repeat the exercise until they reach that benchmark. A third reason to use the quiz module might be to create a test review. Perhaps you have 30 or 40 multiple choice questions. You can put those into Moodle, and you can also provide feedback to the students on both correct and incorrect responses so that they can pinpoint where they need to improve as well as what they've already mastered. Some of the pros and cons of using Moodle. For pros, the nice thing about quizzes is that it's integrated into Moodle. If Moodle is your LMS, that means students don't need to go to an exterior website to take the quiz, and that grading is also integrated. Another feature of Moodle is that you can reuse the questions. Once the questions have been entered into the question bank, those are available for your other classes for this term and for future terms. Students like Moodle because of the instant feedback they could receive on quizzes, and for instructors, the instant grading is a nice feature as well. One large negative of using Moodle is the time involved. It's not going to be as fast as creating a quiz on your own, but it does have some benefits along the way. There are also a lot of options in Moodle for just about anything, and that includes the quiz module, and for some that can be a bit frustrating. So let's go ahead and see a student view of a quiz in Moodle. So this is a class I gave last year, so I just created a sample quiz here called Example Quiz. So we'll go ahead and click on that as if we were the student taking the quiz. After you click on it, it gives you a little bit of information. This is where I can describe the quiz if there's any instructions I want to give to my students. This quiz has a time limit of 15 minutes, and it tells you the date when you can start it and finish it, and any previous attempts. So if you've made multiple attempts, it'll give the student that information as well. I'm going to start and continue a previous attempt. So my first question is squares or circles. This is a true or false question. I'm going to go ahead and answer that incorrectly, so I'll say true. I can submit the question now, or I can wait until the end and submit the entire page. So I'll go ahead and look at a few other question types for this sample. The second question is a short answer. What does LOL stand for? I'll go ahead and write laughing out loud. And for number 3, I'll give an incorrect answer. 2 times 6, well, I'll enter 8 for that. This is a numerical question, so where your answer is going to be a number. And the 4th is your typical multiple choice question. Which of the following is a citrus fruit? I'll give an incorrect answer for that too, so you can see some of the options. When I'm done, I can either save it and not quite submit it if I think I want to spend some more time on it. I can submit the page or submit all and finish. I'm going to go ahead and submit page. And what that'll do is if I have the options set as so, it'll go ahead and grade and give me some comments right away. So on the first question, you can see that that was incorrect. So the correct answer is false. And it tells me my grade 0 out of 5 for that question. Well, the second one is correct, and I received 5 out of 5 points. You can also set partial credit in any value that you would like. Number 3, my incorrect answer of 8, I was able to put some feedback in here as well for students. I thought maybe this is a common error if they didn't read the question correctly, so I said, oops, looks like you added instead of multiplying. So you can do this for any number of answers, especially useful if you're making a test review. And the fourth question down here, which of the following is a citrus fruit? Again, I was able to put some comments in here saying, no, it's not apple, only lemons are a citrus fruit. And again, you can see my grade 0 out of 5, 0 out of 5 for those last two. So that's what a student would see. Again, in the left-hand corner, they have a time remaining square, very helpful for a time test, and it travels with them as they scroll up and down. So now we're going to look at how to create a quiz. So first, I'll go to Add an Activity, where I'm going to choose the quiz module. From there, Moodle will take me to adding a new quiz. First, I'll name my new quiz. I'll just call it Sample Quiz. Okay, after that, I can write some instructions about the quiz that the student might see. So I'll write instructions. Take the quiz in 10 minutes. Please answer every question. After I put in my instructions, I have several options for what I'd like to do next. My first option involves timing. I can have a timed quiz, and I can also limit the days that it's available. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and have this quiz available from November 10th to November 12th. And I'll open it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll close it right before midnight at 23:55. I'd also like to use a time limit on the quiz. So say I want 10 minutes for my quiz. My next options talk about a time delay between attempts. Maybe you want students to think about things a little bit. You can list a time delay or in hours or days, and between later attempts as well. I'm going to go ahead and keep those at none. My next options involve display. How many questions I'd like per page? I'm not going to limit it, so students can just continue scrolling. Or if you'd like pages, you can set the number of questions per page. I'm going to leave shuffle questions at yes, so that students don't receive questions in the same order, as well as shuffle within questions, so that the answer choices are also randomized. Next, we talk about attempts. If you are doing a traditional quiz, you might only want one attempt. If you are doing a test review, however, you might include unlimited attempts, or for an assignment, you might want a certain number of attempts or unlimited. Each attempt builds on the last. If I'm doing multiple attempts, that would allow me to have students start from the questions that they did correctly, otherwise they would have to take the entire quiz again. And adaptive mode, I'm going to put no since I'm only allowing one attempt here. As I scroll down, there's questions about grades. If Moodle is going to grade it, then I want to fill these in as well. So for instance, I can average several attempts or just include the first, last, or the highest grade. I can also apply penalties if I'm doing multiple attempts, such as losing a few points for the first attempt being incorrect. And finally, decimal digits in the grade, I like to do 0 digits. Okay, finally we have review options. This is what students may see after the quiz. So I'm going to allow students to see their responses, but not the actual answers of the quiz. I'll also allow them to see general feedback and feedback there and overall feedback. Okay, so I'll let them not see the answers or their scores quite yet. Later, while the quiz is still open, I'm going to keep this the same. I don't want students to talk to each other about the answers until the quiz is totally closed, at which point I'll let them view the answers as well as their scores. Next, I have some options on security. I typically keep this at none, but you can use some JavaScript security, require a password, or require an actual address if you prefer. And finally, if you're using groups, you might want to fill that in here. I'm going to have no groups, and I'm going to choose a grade category for my gradebook. I'll put this under quizzes. You can enter these into the gradebook and learn more about that through the grade module. And finally, for overall feedback, perhaps everyone that gets 100% should get a special message. For instance, I could say, great job, perfect score, for those that get 100%. Okay, when I'm done, I can go to Save and Display. What that'll do is pop me into the next screen where I can now enter some questions. If I just save and return, that'll just put me back into my main screen for my Moodle class. So here I've created one question already called essay number 1. So I'm going to show you how to create a question, and then we'll add our new question and essay 1 to our quiz. At this point, if you look on the left here, no questions have been added to the quiz. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new question. I'm going to choose a multiple choice, a fairly common type of question, and I'll call this colors. The question name is really more for your benefit so that you can keep track of questions in the question bank. So here in the question text, I'm going to ask a simple question. What color is an orange? Simple question. We'll say a ripe orange, just to be very specific. Okay, next I can put some general feedback in. That'll appear for students if you have the general feedback selected. But I'm going to go ahead and go to my answer choices. Now you'll notice here I can have one answer or multiple answers. If there's something where multiple answers are appropriate, I'm going to shuffle the answer choices so that they appear differently for different students. So here I'm going to enter my answer choices. I'm going to start with red. An answer of red will receive no credit, 0%. And again, I can put feedback for each of these answers. I'll put yellow next. No credit for that. I'm going to put my correct answer here. I've decided orange, and I'm going to call that 100% correct. As you can see, you have a lot of options for partial credit here as well. And finally, I think I'll just have 3 answer choices. Blue will be my final one. Okay, if I don't fill on all 5, that's fine. Moodle will automatically just show 4, and I also have a chance to add 3 more choices, so I can have 8 choices there. Overall feedback, if there's something I want to say for correct responses, partially correct or incorrect, I can input it there. I'm just going to leave that blank for now and say Save Changes. So now that I've added a question, I can select the question over on the right, and I'll also add this other essay question that I created earlier on. And then I can say Add to Quiz. So what that does is move my questions from the question bank on the right to the quiz on the left. Once they're in the quiz, I can use these arrows over here to move them up and down, depending on what order I'd like the questions to appear. And over here it tells me how much they're worth. So for instance, if I want a 10-point quiz, maybe I want each of these questions worth 5 points. And then 10 total, that looks good. And I'll go ahead and say Save Changes. Okay, you can have questions worth the same or different amounts of points, and you can also edit them over here using the editing icons right over here. Okay, I'm happy with my quiz. We're going to go ahead and preview it. So in Preview up here, Preview Sample Quiz, it's not available to students yet because of those dates I set. So my 2 questions are here. My time remaining is showing up correctly at the top. The first question, write a paragraph. This is an essay question, so students can write something in here. Notice they have all of the Moodle options, so they can use different fonts, bold and italic, they can put pictures in. Okay, that's really useful for more complicated questions here. And then I have my multiple choice question. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that correctly and submit all and finish and see what happens. It tells me I'm about to close this attempt and I won't be able to come back and change my answers. That looks fine. I just want to see if it works. It looks like it worked fine. So as a teacher, I can now make a comment or override grades for these now that these have been submitted. You'll notice for every student that takes a quiz, you'll get what time they took it, started and finished, how long it took, and the feedback that you might give them. This is particularly helpful, I find, because I can tell how long students are taking and judge if my quiz is an appropriate length. I can also see if students maybe took them together or at the same time. I might wonder about that if I had any reason to worry about plagiarism. So that's creating a quiz. There's obviously many other types of questions you could add as well, but I hope I've given you a nice overview of how to create a quiz in Moodle.